everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey Matt.
Hey Kat, hey everyone, how are you?
What an exciting way for us to spend Mother's Day with our guest.
Yeah, that's right. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And
Yes,
stepmothers and bonus moms and who else?
pet moms.
Yeah, there you go. That's another one.
Yeah. I saw a cute little dog today, and he was being, like, I'm not you're not my mom. So it's kind of, you know, probably a lot of kids might be out there saying that same thing, but at the root of it all, everyone appreciates mothers, I feel like.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and we're getting to spend our Mother's Day with, well, my Mother's Day, and it's your Mother's Day too. Everybody has a mother. Um, so with Chapel Heart, I can't wait to hear all about their experiences. And, two of them have the same mother because they're sisters.
Yeah, that's right. And one of them is a cousin or something, I think.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. I was thinking, like, in your family, is there one of your siblings that you think you would be able to start a group, a band with?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Well, my brother's definitely very talented, so from the musical perspective, I think we could function as a band. And then cousins. So the other one of Chapel Heart is a cousin, and I also have like a lot of musical cousins. So in that way, we do have the genetics, I guess, to have a band. Uh, I wonder if it's difficult. Do you like if you could have a band with your family? Like kind of it might be hard, right?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm trying to think of anyone in my family plays an instrument. I think my oldest brother's wife plays keyboard or used to play keyboard, and then I think I have a nephew that plays bass.
Well, I mean, you could be the lead singer
Yeah.
and
No,
guitar and guitar player.
no.
So you almost have a band right there.
Yeah, almost. Not quite.
Yeah. Well, music. I mean, music and families is one of the big memories that I have. My cousins coming over summer and just everybody, especially on my dad's side, a lot of that people just coming together and playing music. I grew up that way,
Hmm.
and on my mom's side too, there were some musical cousins, but more so on my dad's side.
Yeah. Does your mother sing at all?
She mostly would just sit there and listen. She wasn't tone deaf. I mean, so she could sing some, but she didn't join in usually.
I see,
So
yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Um,
She'd just sit there and drink her beer, huh?
well, she would request the songs,
Oh, yeah.
and then generally start talking like right as we started to, to sing it or whatever. Sometimes we just keep going on or whatever. And
Hmm.
sometimes it'd be like,
Shut
okay,
up, Faye.
yeah, I mean, is it like, is she saying like, okay, enough of that, or you're not, not doing so well? But
Right, yeah.
yeah, my brother, mostly she would request things for him to sing when he would visit from Wisconsin at that time. So
Hmm.
yeah,
She
a
didn't
lot of good.
she didn't ask you to play?
I was a backup singer for my brother, I guess.
Ah.
I did harmony, so
Oh,
you
I
know.
see.
But when my dad joined in a lot too, I mean, a whole lot when we were younger, he was the lead guitarist. And then, as we got older, my brother became that. And
Yeah.
my dad would always be like the one with the reel to reel recording.
Reel to reel. Holy crap, that's old.
Yeah, he had that. And you can imagine how many takes like got lost in the recording of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He'd just be playing around with the machine, sort of like my mom, like requesting and talking.
Right.
He'd be playing with the machine. And so, yeah. But I will say this is a funny story. We used to play spades. I don't know. Have you ever played that card game?
Maybe. I don't recall.
Well, so it was a big game. You know, and so when my brother would come in, we would team up. So you have a partner, and it would be my brother and then my parents. So we played against them,
Mm-hmm.
and they were kind of like the reigning spade champions, with their brother-in-law,
Right.
in-law kind of thing of the people that played. So, they were pretty like confident they were going to beat us. But my brother and I, we we picked out songs like playing with the Queen of Hearts, for just for instance. And like, so I would just be like, singing along, humming along a song to let my brother know like what suit that he needed to lead off with. And so we cheated through music and we would beat them, and they never like, could figure it out. Like, how could
That's funny. Scamming your parents.
I know, not that I'm exactly proud of it, but then again, it is kind of, innovative.
Yeah, for sure.
No money was exchanged, however.
That's good.
Just,
Didn't.
just a bragging right.
Yeah, you didn't cheat them out of their rent payment for that month or anything.
No, we all walked away with what we brought to the table, but
That's funny.
good memory there. And this is kind of what I'm thinking with Chapel Heart, is there's going to be like a lot of family memories tied to music. I could be wrong, but it's just before we interview them, it's kind of what I'm thinking. So,
Yeah, you're probably right. I know they come from a pretty big family, as I remember reading.
yeah, so I can't wait to hear some of the stories. And, I'm going to ask them like one of those questions at the end that has nothing to do with the music career. So, just have to
Alrighty.
just wait to see which one I ask. And one more thing I want to say before we get into the interview. In our Backstory Sessions group, a lot of the members posted questions that they would like for us to ask.
Right.
And I'm going to ask a couple of those. And one of them that I plan to ask is from, well, when it was posted, it was from Mason Mitchell.
Oh yeah, yeah. What do you
But
mean?
now,
What do you mean when it was posted?
so, and like I've asked this, before our interview.
Yeah.
Uh, and so she posted a question, and her name was Mason Mitchell. So today, Mason Mitchell is Mason Smith.
Are you saying she got married?
She did. So
Wow.
I want to say a special shout out, even though she's probably not listening right now, probably on her honeymoon, but
Yeah.
Mason Smith. Um, Even though we're going to ask your question is Mason Mitchell. Mason Smith, congratulations. You were a guest that we had before, and we love you and are so happy and send our best out to you.
Yeah,
And
for
you,
sure. Congratulations, Mason.
yeah. So, let's get into this interview and ask Mason's question.
All right, sounds good. Here we go.
Yay, Chapel Heart. We are so happy to have you on Backstory Sessions today. Welcome.
Hi.
And I wanted to start out by saying to our listeners out there, Happy Mother's Day. And, you know, um, do you all have any Mother's Day, shout outs you'd like to give?
Of course. Well, this is Tree, and I would like to shout out not just my mother, but our mothers collectively, and all of the moms out there. You know what? I would like to dedicate our song "Mississippi 4" to all of the for Mississippi, to all of the mothers, the aunties, the sisters, the grandmothers, because I mean that's who made us who we are. All the mamas.
Awesome. Well, I'm seeing that you all come from a large family. So, within that, I'm guessing, there are quite a few female influences. So, let's start with that. I believe your grandmother had, is it 17 kids?
This is Devin, and yes, that is correct. She had 17 kids. There are 108 grandchildren in our family, and when I tell you, all family functions are just insane in the best way possible. They really, really are.
Oh,
Super large family.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have that many, connections, family members. That must be like just really the best thing.
It really is, especially as we've been traveling around on the Glory Days tour. We've been lucky enough to have family members to show up in random places across the U.S. just because there's so many of us. You never really know where they're gonna pop up.
Wow. Well, it's good for voting too, like if you're ever in contests and things like that.
Yes,
A lot of
we
people
should at
come
least have
in.
a majority of the votes just for family.
Yeah. So when you get together for family, events, like was music always a part of that?
This is Tree, and music definitely was. We like to say that we grew up kind of in a musical because it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's like just a Sunday after church, or a birthday party, a wedding, a divorce. It doesn't matter. Somebody's born or somebody dies. And eventually, if we're all together, there's going to be music at some point.
Wow. And so is it always been country music or gospel and country, or is it like more genres too?
Honestly, it's a mix of everything. Like we're like everybody in our family either sings or plays some type of instrument. So you just never know what genre you may get at a heart family function. Okay, you just never know. It's just kind of random most of the time.
And let's talk a little bit about your name, Chapel Heart. So, where does that come from?
So we're from Poplarville, Mississippi, but inside of Poplarville, there's a community called Derby, and inside of Derby, there's another community called Harts Chapel, and that's like where all of our family lives and our home church is there. So when we were trying to come up with the name, we wanted something that meant something to the three of us. And we were going through names, going through names. We probably went through a million names. All of them were terrible ideas. And then our manager, he suggested, he was like, well, what about Chapel Heart? And for a minute, we just kind of laughed because it was like, that's kind of ridiculous too. But after we, thought about it and we sat on it, we were like, you know what? Growing up in Harts Chapel really cultivated us into the women that we are today. So we were like, that's literally a perfect name. But even if we didn't like it, I think we were kind of going to be stuck with that name because our other manager, he fell in love with it and just started calling us that before anybody even really agreed to it. So that's kind of the backstory of where we got our name.
Well, and now have you've grown to love that name?
Oh, absolutely. It really does. It is exactly what we were looking for. It means everything to us. So the name has definitely grown on us.
So Danica and Devin, you were sisters, and then Tree, you're the cousin. Is that how it works?
Correct. So,
Okay. So
this,
how
this
do
is
you go from, family members to deciding, okay, we sing together at the funerals and the weddings and the church and all of that. How do you, like, whose idea is it to, maybe like we could do this professionally? Like, who comes up with that? How does it happen?
so this is Danica, and it kind of started back maybe. I'm gonna go back to maybe like 2014, 13, 14, and I lost my job at the hospital in Poplarville, and in our song "Made for Me," there's a line that says "Got a job at the hospital," but I was still on the run, and the hard part about that is like if you can get a job in Poplarville at the hospital, like you've made it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
That's the big girl, that's the big boy job. And so when I got let go from there, I was just like, what do I do now? Like, what am I now? Like, I lost my job at the hospital. Where do you go from here? And so I remembered I had a message from Tree and her sister, and they'd always randomly message me and say, hey, you need to come down to New Orleans. You should come down here and come sing, and or just come and hang out and all the things. And Tree always says, but New Orleans and Mississippi is about 40 miles and 40 years away from each other. So I was always like, no, like I was so scared to go. And, we in Mississippi, we were like, you go down there, you're going to die for sure. No, nothing in between. Like you're not going to survive. And so, but I finally took that jump and went down there, and Tree and I, we busked on the streets for a little while, and then we started singing in bars. And we had a cover band, and then in 2018, Dev lost her job, and I said, well, I said, why don't you come sing with us for a little bit? And she did, and she was reluctant because not that she couldn't sing, she just was too shy, I think, for the most part. And lo and behold, like she did a couple gigs with us, and those gigs were terrible, but first few were pretty bad. But she, I told her, I said, listen, just hang in there a few months. Tell her what you told me. You're coming in at an unfair disadvantage. Okay, so she was coming in at an unfair disadvantage, and she needed to step it up drastically. And I don't know, something just clicked, and in a matter of a short time, we were singing, and it felt like she was the missing piece of the puzzle, and here we are, 2023. CMT's Next Women of Country, like all the things, and so I don't know. I feel like we've just been in it so deep. I can't say like where it like turned into
right, more of that.
Into like Chapel Heart the Superstars. Like I don't know when that happened, but
yeah,
or if that even happened, but.
Sure,
but I don't know, but just somewhere in the hard work.
Well, did you have a plan B, or did you all sit down and be like, okay, we're family, we're going to do this. What if it doesn't work out? Like, are we going to, how are we going to navigate that? Because in some ways it might be like a divorce, like, I mean, when bands sometimes break up, they can get pretty messy. So did you have any kind of discussion like that?
Well, this is Tree, and honestly, I feel like if we had a plan B at this point, probably would have fallen back on it. But luckily, since we're all related, we figured we're all going to have to be together for the rest of our lives anyway. So we definitely have that advantage over most groups. And so it's either we can stick together and try to, make this whole music journey work, or still have to stick together and be at home. So you might as well try to spread it as far and as wide as it could possibly go.
Yeah. Well, so you end up on America's Got Talent. Whose idea was that? And what was the audition process like?
Um, so I love like truthfully, I always tell people that we're more of like the old school. I feel like we're the last of like the old school generation where you get the van, you go play the gigs, you pick up the fan base, you go back there, you pick up more fan base, and then you take up, you get the area, and then you come back and you get the region, and we were
Right.
old school in that sense. So we were never like, oh, let's go on a TV show. Like that just wasn't. And we had a fan to reach out, and she was like, the world needs to hear what y'all have. She was like, please go on America's Got Talent. We were like, girl, no. And like, she was very persistent. And it just so happened we were getting ready to go out with the Indigo Girls, and we
Wow.
were getting ready to go out with the Indigo Girls, and somebody got sick on like they got COVID on their side, so everything ended up shutting down. So then that was the same week of auditions, and
Ah,
we I feel like we got that moment where it was like, come on, like it was like the universe just kind of like opened up the door for us to go, and we said. But the one thing I thought that was important for me, and the one thing that I think is beautiful and we get to share with people is that we sat down and we were like, okay, what's the pros and cons to going? And we didn't get far in that conversation when we said, you know what, at the end of our music career, at the end of our lives, and we're sitting on our porches, we just want to say we did everything. We did it all. And which was ultimately the reason why we jumped and we went. And I always say, thank God that we did, right?
exactly. And it does seem like the universe had that, opportunity opening up for you, and you were right there ready to take it. So, when our listeners, when they found out that we're going to have you as guests, they were really excited, and we started getting a lot of questions. And we're going to implement a couple of those into the interview today. Mason Mitchell, she was curious about what's it like behind the scenes of America's Got Talent? Like from the time you get to the studio or you get there the night of the performance, what all is involved that we don't see?
Oh my gosh, it's absolute madness. It
Yes.
is absolute madness because being a variety show, it's not just a bunch of singers backstage, rehearsing, getting ready, doing vocal exercises and stuff like that. Like you have everything. You got people with goats and a man was on fire and like there's just so many things go on, and we call it the holding cell. So it's like until it's your turn to go out and perform, they just have everybody in this room just kind of waiting. And it's literal chaos, but it's so interesting. Like Danica got her fortune told by a parrot. It was just so fun. And
Wow.
even this is Danica. This is Danica, and even on show days, they even on show days it's still crazy because they're building these big sets, and so they've got lights and they've got lights and they've got stages and they've got panels and they got moving like blowers and fire, and so it is like it's so funny. Like backstage, this thing, being a singer, being the artist, is like I feel like towards the bottom of the list of things that are going on. So I think that'd be an interesting like documentary of like all the things that it takes to get up before you do a show like that, or before you do a performance, because it is absolute. It's organized chaos at its best.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting question she had, and thanks for sharing a little bit of that so
That was
we
a great question.
have an idea. Um, So, what was it like? You did the performance, and we're going to talk about this song. You can have him, Jolene. But when you got the golden buzzer, because I think you're only the second group ever to get
Correct.
that. What was that feeling like? Because you just had this like
I'm
powerful,
I'm sorry. Could you
performance.
repeat that? It kind of cut out.
So you just had a very powerful performance, and then all of a sudden you're getting the golden buzzer. So what's going through your mind, or what are you feeling as you wait to see if that's going to happen?
Well, at that moment, if you look on the video, you can see it was absolute confusion because before we went out, they had already told us that all four of the golden buzzers had already been given out. And, at this point, it's day 3 in the process, and, we're pretty much exhausted. So we go out and we just say to ourselves, okay, we need at least 3 yeses to go to the next level. We don't even need 4. We need just a minimum of 3. But after we finished performing, there was kind of a pause, and we were just waiting to get our 3 yeses, but no one said yes. No one said no. And then Terry ran down, and I actually leaned over to Danica. I was like, you sure maybe we should just kind of leave? Because nobody was saying anything. And Danica always, it would have been crazy to have a golden buzzer moment with us not on the stage. And she was like, well, let's just wait a few more minutes to see what's going on, because you never really know. On TV, they might say, okay, cut, let's run it back and do it again. And so we were kind of just standing there, and I think that's why the look of shock and amazement on all of our faces were kind of hard to hide.
Well, I can't imagine the amazing feeling that all the feelings and emotions that must have been going through your minds at that time. So that brings us to another listener question. Travis Crawford wants to know, what impact did being on America's Got Talent in that performance, what impact on your career did that have?
Well, this is Danica, and I'd like to think that showed that moment. If we didn't compete for the rest of the show, I think it's safe to say that moment, I hate for it to sound so cliche, but I believe it was the moment that changed our lives in music forever, because otherwise I don't know if we would have gotten that chance. And there's so much that they cut out to make for TV, but we did get to talk a little bit about our journey and experience being in Nashville. And Nashville is a super they're very much so if this works a certain way, we're this is what we're going with. And so it just, we've been kind of fighting with that, fighting against that for so long. So I don't even know if we'd had the opportunity to get, as much exposure as we did from America's Got Talent, as we were on our, on the trajectory that we were on.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the song. So, you all wrote the song, and so it's such a clever, take on telling, updating us on, what happens with Jolene in the story. So how did you come up with that, and why did you choose the song Jolene?
We've always been this is Danica, we've always been Dolly Parton fans, and just fans of her songwriting. Her songwriting was always fun and exciting, and so we were doing a cover of 9 to 5 during COVID, during quarantine, and just kind of trying to keep ourselves working and busy. And so if you watch that video on YouTube, Deb walks in and she's a line cook in the video, and her shirt says, "You can have them, signed Jolene." And I saw it, and I was like, who does this heifer think she is? How you gonna take my man and then tell me I can have him back? So I was like, how about you can just have him, Jolene? And we all looked at each other, and it was like a moment, and we were like, we gotta write that. And I said, the beauty of that is that as an artist, you say that maybe 10 times a day, and very rarely do you remember to go back and write it, or do you write it down. And we all sat down to write one day, and we said, why don't we pull that up? And from the moment that we thought about it, from the moment that we did it, from the moment that, we wrote it and the music was playing, everything about it had such a fun energy to it. We just, it was just like it was meant to be. And we're definitely forever grateful that, in a way the song chose us, but in a way that we stuck to it and decided to write the song.
And then you have Fifth City. So you have a version of that for Loretta Lynn's song. And it's a similar kind of look at, what happens beyond the original song. So how did that come to be?
I'm sorry, it was cutting out. I'm sorry. Can you repeat
Oh,
that one more time?
yes. So you have Fifth City, which is Loretta Lynn's original song. And so you've kind of done the same type thing with telling, what happens, expanding on that. So how did you come up with that idea?
This is Devin, and right after our AGT audition aired, first Dolly Parton tweeted us, and she was like, "Oh my God, I love what you did with the song, but it's Carl's birthday, so I think I'm gonna keep him." And then less than an hour after that, we get a tweet from Loretta Lynn, and it was her sharing the video as well. And she was like, "Ladies, I love what y'all did with Dolly's song. I'm wondering what you can do to one of my songs." And so
Oh,
we were just like freaking out, screaming. We were already screaming about Dolly, then Loretta came. And so when we were trying to pick a song to kind of do a take on, it was hard because everything that Loretta said is kind of how Chapel Hart would say it. And so it was kind of a struggle to try to do a flip on one of her songs. So we were like, how about we just extend the story to one of the songs? So in Fifth City, she tried to like warn her, like, if you don't stop messing with my man, I'm gonna take you to Fifth City. And since she didn't listen to Loretta, that's whenever we decided that we would just have to welcome her to Fifth City.
oh. I can see in your future a TV series where they
Oh
take
my God.
you all definitely. I can just see that from what you're doing with these songs because I could see every week it being a different song. And so that's the first thing crossed in my mind. I love, love, love what you're doing with the songwriting of these. Now, I know we only have a few minutes left with you, but you've got a new album, Glory Days, coming out in just a few days, May 19th, I think. So tell us about the new album. What can we look forward to?
Oh, our listeners can look forward to just a deeper dive into the world of Chapel Hart with this album. We feel like the last album that we put out was kind of like an introductory, kind of just to let everybody know who we are, what we stand for. And it was more so of like kind of proving ourselves from like the nearly overused to showing that classic country background. So the girls are back in town, our rough and rowdy side. But we feel like the Glory Days album is more like that, that third date, the relationship's getting a little deeper, and we're getting to bring our fans home to Poplarville to meet our family. We have songs like Fam Family that, it kind of just introduces all the crazy characters that, we all have in our families. And also songs like If You Ain't Wearing Boots that kind of just explain the life that we come from, the simple kind of life hanging out on the porch. And a lot of people understand it, but we also realize that some people just won't get it because they didn't grow up in those situations. And it's the song that's really chronicling exactly where we are in life, because these truly are our glory days. It's kind of the days that we'll look back with our kids and our grandkids and tell them all the stories about.
And did you write all of the songs on this album as well?
Yes, we wrote all of the songs, and there are a couple of songs we have some co-writes with, like Mark. We've written a couple songs with Mark Carson and Jim Beavers and Leslie Thatcher. But for the most part, generally, people ask who we wrote the song with, and we just point to the other two ladies.
There was on America's Got Talent. I remember, a quote you were saying that like country music doesn't always look, like you necessarily. Do you see that's changing, and are you a part of that change? If so,
Well, this is Tree, and I think that I honestly think that is one of the quotes that maybe it was like, I guess it's misheard around the world, because yes, Danica did say that country music doesn't look like us. And I think when a lot of people hear it, they initially say, oh, it's because they're black. But honestly, you have to look at it even wider than that. There aren't very many trios. I mean, think back to the Dixie Chicks, but like even just in the music industry in general, trios are usually a bad idea because, like you say, most people think they're going to break up or there's going to be whole lot of other problems because instead of wrangling one artist, you have three to worry about.
Right.
And then on top of that, you have a plus size, you have a curvy girl, you have a really skinny girl, and it's like all different kinds of body types, completely different personalities. And it's just so many different aspects that we have that you just generally don't see in country music. And it kind of reminds me of one day we did a show in Meridian, Mississippi, and there was this little chunky white girl, and like after she was in the line, and you could tell she was excited, waiting in line for the meet and greet. And when it was their turn, she just ran right up to Danica, like tears in her eyes, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you look exactly like me." And honestly, like that was one of the moments that kind of like, and it's like it just kind of cements it. It's not necessarily all about color; it's about people being able to love themselves regardless of who they are, where they come from, what they look like, because the world is made of all kinds of kinds.
And one thing I noticed is that you all three have a very distinct style. Like a lot of times, you see trios or groups all like dressed together like alike and things like that, but you all have your own flair. I feel like that's very unique as well.
Yes, most definitely.
All right, so our last question, we try to end with a little fun. Who is your celebrity crush?
Ooh, this is Devin, and I want to say my celebrity crush would have Trace Adkins, because why not?
This is Tree, and mine happens to be Alan Jackson. It was something about the way that he did those music videos in the 90s. He just stole my heart.
Aww.
This is Danica, and let me just tell you what, Zach Brown, if you're listening, I love you so much, and I'm just ready to, ultimately, I'm just ready to be Mrs. Danica Zach Brown, and I've waited for so long, so I've got patience if you.
All right, well, we make that happen, then we have to have you back.
There we
on
go.
the show. So, I hope we do get to chat again. This has been so much fun, and that's just the beginning of the layers of everything I'd love to talk about with you. But I love your music. I love what you're doing. I'm gonna look for that TV show one day. I got
Yes.
So
it was so good talking with y'all. Thank y'all so much for taking the time to talk to us.
All right, thank you for your time, and you just keep singing and doing what you do and making the world better.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye-bye.
As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlays@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.